In elementary school, we learned this song that I think might be helpful. It's called When I Look at You, I See Me. And it goes, when I look at you, I see me.
Right off the bat, Season 3 takes the message that the previous season sent, a message of equality, and literally burns it to the ground. This isn't a surprise, of course, because anyone who watched Season 2 knew something like this was bound to happen the moment Grace and Simon took the spotlight. In Season 2, Grace tried to recruit Jesse into their cult, while at the same time having Simon attempt to wheel MT and Alan Dracula. They view the occupants of the train as worthless. They call them nulls, in their words, not even a zero. While such a view is more in line with speciesism, it is definitely being used here as an analogy for racism. And the show shows us that everyone, whether they be black like Grace or white like Simon, has the potential to fall into this flawed worldview. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. The previous 2 seasons were fairly straightforward. Their stories were linear, but Season 3 is more complex. It's layered. It uses speciesism not just to send a message about the danger of racism, but more so as a means to divide the main characters. So because of these layers, instead of just walking you through the season like I did in the videos for the previous 2, I'll be jumping around a bit. So let's begin by discussing one of this season's main characters, Simon. Unlike Tulip and Grace, we never get to see Simon before he got on the train, and his life outside of it, as far as I can remember, is never mentioned. However, the earliest memory of his we are aware of is central to his character. When he first woke up in the train in the first car he was ever in, he met the cat. For months he traveled with her, and Simon openly admits to the fact that the cat helped him survive from this time. However, when being chased by a cockroach monster, the cat jumped through a hole and escaped to the next train car, but she left Simon behind to die. Had Grace not jumped in to save him, he would have died years before this season even takes place. This event traumatized him. He was just a child. And this trauma is central to Simon's character. But before we move on, let's take a closer look at it, because this event very much explains his position on the nulls. The cockroach monster, a null, was trying to kill him. His only friend, another null, abandoned him. And if it weren't for Grace, a passenger, he would have died. Thus, it's clear that to Simon, only passengers can be trusted. Only passengers can earn his respect. So the opinion grew in him that the occupants of the train were worthless, and this is understandable. And over time, Grace came to this belief as well, and the two convinced dozens of kids to believe the same. Their group, the Apex, finds joy and destruction in violence. On the high of their raid of the musical car, Grace decides to keep the party going, and they raid the turtle car. But when Simon gets trapped under some rubble and Grace goes back to save him, they get separated from the rest of the Apex, and so begins their epic journey to return home. But unlike Tulip and Jesse, their home is on the train. They don't try to lower their numbers, they don't try to learn lessons. Rather, they think that raising their numbers is the right thing to do. Obviously, this plays directly into their flawed belief system because it justifies their violent behavior. Since Grace is the highest number, she is in charge and even Simon has to obey her. But Grace starts off not wanting to order him around, and she encourages him to loosen up about the rules. They joke around, reminisce about the past, they have fun. Clearly these two are very close. They even left the musical car arm in arm, and Simon constantly blushes when she jokes with him. They have a very healthy friendship. But this friendship is based on a flawed worldview. My brother once told me that throughout the entire history of man, science has always prevailed. Truth has always won the day, and truth slowly begins to reveal itself in the second episode, when Grace and Simon meet Hazel and Tuba, a human and a null coexisting. Much like she did with Jesse, Grace misleads Hazel. She convinces Hazel to tag along with them, and Tuba agrees because it's in Hazel's best interest to be with other children. But there's an obvious problem here, the same as the problem Jesse displayed in Season 2. Hazel is attached to a null. Simon points this out, of course, but Grace responds,
We'll take them both for now. Once we wean Hazel off it, we'll ditch the null before we get back home.
This line is extremely important. Once again, Grace and Simon are building a friendship off of a falsehood, this time knowingly. They are allowing Hazel to think that Tuba will be permitted to live with the Apex while they actually plan to ditch her. At the beginning of the third episode, actually, Simon asks Grace when she thinks they should kill Tuba. When they enter the debutante car, Simon tries to find a way out, while Tuba believes they should simply do what the occupants of the car want them to do. That being, learn a ballroom dance. So clearly, the group has this uneasy alliance. Both sides distrust each other, they have different ways of going about doing things, but Tuba, as well as Grace and Simon, all have Hazel's best interest at heart. So while Simon tries to find an ulterior means of escape, Grace and Hazel learn the dance. We get our first glance into Grace's past here. She brings up how she used to take dancing lessons, but her rich parents always made her dance solo. And the one time she was placed in a group, her parents refused to attend the recital. The other girls didn't even bother to invite her to join them for ice cream afterwards. Clearly, Grace's parents have high expectations for their daughter, and these expectations leave her ostracized from her peers. She disappointed her parents by being in a group at home, but here on the train it is by leading others that she has become powerful, that she has found happiness, purpose, meaning. She brushes off her past, claiming she was too good for the other girls anyways. Simon returns, unable to find a way out, and blushes while he dances with Grace. They escape the car and officially name Hazel a member of the Apex, but not Tuba, under the excuse that Tuba is not a kid. Simon asks Hazel to teach her the song she previously sang to Tuba, and Tuba looks on, worried she is losing her friend. And when Grace glares back at Tuba, she realizes this, and looks down, and as she does, her number goes down. The fourth episode has the group partake in a snowball fight. Simon and Grace seem to welcome Tuba into it, neither seem miffed by her presence. Sure, Simon gets upset after Tuba throws a gigantic snowball at him, but who wouldn't? Unfortunately for Tuba though, just as Grace and Simon seem to be starting to maybe accept her presence, Simon is confronted by the source of his trauma, the cat. He immediately tries to leave the cabin, but they're snowed in. He goes to Grace, his best friend, for support, but she immediately shrugs him off, too occupied with her own problem, the fact her number's going down. So Simon walks away, feeling alone, possibly for the first time since the cat abandoned him. And just like then, this happens. It's important to note something here. Grace's number has been and still is higher than Simon's. This means that Grace has done significantly more bad deeds on the train and is further from fixing herself than Simon is. But at the same time, this adventure is causing Grace to sympathize with a null, to rethink the core of the Apex's beliefs. This is why her number is going down, but Simon's doesn't. His trauma is keeping him from growing. And when he sees the cat with Hazel, reminding him of when the cat came to his aid when he was young, he snaps.
She abandoned me!
Simon,
Am I wrong? Did you leave me or not?
you're not wrong.
But what's with you? Every minute I'm in this cabin with the cat is like another weight pressing down on my chest. And you don't even seem to care.
Grace, of course, being his best friend, goes off to find him to apologize for her lack of understanding.
I'm sorry. This must be horrible for you. I've been dealing with something. It's been going down. I didn't want the Apex, or you, to think less of me.
I'm always with you. We're a team.
Clearly, Simon isn't a bad person. He just needs guidance, that push in the right direction. Perhaps if Grace continues to be honest with him like she's in this scene, the season would have a happy ending. Unfortunately though, that doesn't happen. This is the last time these two are ever on the same page. But before we move on to the fifth episode, it's important to note that, despite his trauma, despite his opinion of the nulls, despite his desire to kill Tuba in the next episode, Simon doesn't hate the cat. In fact, he somberly says goodbye to her at the end of this episode.
Au revoir, Simon.
Au revoir.
Simon never outright expresses doubt concerning his worldview, but actions speak louder than words. He partook in a snowball fight with Tuba, he tried to pop the bubble in the ocean car, he said goodbye to the cat. Then in the 5th episode, he laughs at Tuba's joke. He asks about Tuba's late daughter, then smiles when Tuba says she's lucky to have Hazel around. Sure, at first he was anything but willing to work with Tuba, but like I said, given his trauma, Simon needs that extra push. And who better to give him that extra push than Grace, his best friend? But Grace never expresses her doubts to him, never asks him not to get rid of Tuba at some point. So when he gets the chance to wheel Tuba at the end of the episode, he takes it.
Teamwork begins with two people trusting each other.
But you're no person.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to claim that Simon is completely innocent here. At the end of the day, the decision to kill Tuba was his. But Grace's failure to take into account Simon's pre-existing trauma, to be honest with him about her own doubts, makes her just as much to blame for this tragedy as him. She's known Simon for years. She knows his greatest flaw, his resistance to change. I would argue that this is why we never see Simon's backstory. When Tulip saw her past, the memories that hurt her, she grew as an individual. So does Grace later on in the season. But as the season progresses and the two grow increasingly distant, what does Simon do? Never once does a thought cross his mind that he is the problem, that he is to blame. As Grace continues to change, he grows more concerned for her well-being rather than his own, to the point that he returns to his source of trauma.
I want something that'll tell me what's wrong with Grace.
You say Grace's number is broken, but the truth is, you just don't like how it's working.
She's not acting like she should! She's shutting me out! Please, Samantha. I have to know why.
This is really our only clue as to why Simon is on the train to begin with. This is just conjecture, but I would guess that someone abandoned him, perhaps one of his parents, and this pain is what got him onto the train. Then the cat abandoned him, and now he fears Grace will do the same. And what do you get when you cross a mentally ill person with a society that ignores him and treats him like trash? You get someone who is willing to invade his best friend's mind before being willing to take a look at his own. So, Grace has been dishonest with both Hazel and Simon. She's been playing both sides rather than being honest with them, or herself. But why? Well, remember how I mentioned that her parents forced her into solo dance lessons, and when she wound up in a group recital they refused to attend? Her parents controlled every aspect of her life. Naturally, the absolute freedom the train offers is very appealing to Grace, and she has used this freedom to become a leader of course, a group, the one thing her parents wished her to be away from. She wants to be a welcomed member of society, while maintaining the independence offered her by not just the train, but also by her role as a leader. So there's this desire in her to be a good leader, to protect those in her fold, this explaining her desire to recruit Hazel and wean her off of Tuba. But at the same time, her freedom, her independence, her friendships, her role as a leader are all built off of something she's beginning to see as flawed. And if she's wrong about the apex, wrong about numbers, wrong about herself, that would make everything she has done over the years a waste of time, her role as leader worthless, and the apex itself pointless. So let's look back at the end of the 5th episode. Simon, believing Grace would be proud of him, openly admits to murdering Tuba. Hazel, obviously heartbroken by the news, runs off and cries. And when Grace goes out to comfort her, she sees Hazel transform into a turtle. It dawns on her that Hazel is not a human. She's a null, and if Simon finds out, he may very well wheel her too. So the conflicting desires in Grace to protect her group and to maintain the validity of it really face off here. But rather than choose one or the other, she tries to keep both. She tries to have her cake and eat it too.
We just won't tell Simon, okay? He doesn't need to know.
Instead of sitting Hazel and Simon down and laying all her cards on the table, she doubles down on the lies. And worse, she promises Hazel that nothing bad will happen to her, while at the same time being the very person preventing Hazel from being herself. She has become exactly like her parents. She refuses to allow Hazel to be herself, to do what she wants, not because it's in Hazel's best interest, but rather because it serves her own agenda. It maintains Grace's social status. It keeps her from being alone like she was when the other girls didn't invite her to get ice cream. And like I said, this is what pushes Simon away from her. Because Grace continues to be dishonest with him, he goes from being her best friend to the season's antagonist. Again, his actions are his own, but Grace has been and continues to be a major contributor to said actions. So Simon returns from his visit with the cat, who told him that Amelia was dangerous, only to see Grace with Amelia. But even worse, Grace is willing to listen to Amelia and considers the notion that what the woman says is true. But in Simon's mind, how could it be? In fact, when Amelia first showed up, it was Grace that advised him against listening to her. So Simon attacks Amelia, the conflict leading to Hazel getting upset and showing her true colors. The universe stepped in here. Before things could get any more out of hand, before Simon could use the device the cat gave him, Grace gets the perfect chance to finally be honest with Simon. But instead...
I can't believe it!
Once again, Grace digs her way deeper into her own grave. In her attempt to hide her deceit, she tells another lie. But worse, she betrays Hazel.
You aren't leaving me.
I'll leave if I want to, null.
Hazel catches on to this, onto how much of a coward Grace really is, and opts to continue her journey with Amelia instead.
Hazel, it's not too late to change your mind!
Good luck, Grace.
And on top of this, when Simon uses the device the cat gave him, he sees that Grace didn't just find out about Hazel, but that she hid the truth from him the entire time. His worst nightmare has come true, and he cries. Instead of admitting to the truth, Grace tried to maintain each relationship, but only wound up losing both. And again, what happens when you cross a mentally ill person with a society who abandons him and treats him like trash? You get what you deserve.
You don't know what you're talking about. Hazel was our friend.
I was your friend first!
What?
Simon finally snaps, and much like the cat did to Tulip in the first season, Simon traps Grace in her own memories, then leaves her for dead. His trauma, his reluctance to accept change, and his friend's betrayal, all these things have turned Simon into a monster. And unfortunately, he embraces it. He leaves, not before crushing all the nulls in the car, then returns to the apex. Meanwhile, Grace has to work through her past. She sees her life before the train, how alone she was. She relives all of her mistakes on the train, and it dawns on her that if she had been honest, all of this pain could have been avoided. She realizes that she has been a coward, and it finally admits to herself that she has been wrong about the train, wrong about the conductor, wrong about her number, wrong about the nulls, wrong about herself.
I'm afraid. Afraid of being wrong, of disappointing others, of not being enough. I did everything to avoid being alone. And it's exactly how I ended up. I'm so sorry, Hazel. You deserved better.
And just as it was for Tulip, it's this admittal that breaks her free of her memories. She wakes up and sets off to face what her sins helped create. But before she leaves, however, she folds all the origami creatures in the car that Simon previously walked over. She returns to the apex to find that Simon has become a fully fledged dictator. He descends the escalator on a throne and orders Grace to be wheeled. Grace tries to explain her actions to the apex, leading to their hesitation to kill her. Simon declares that Grace is lying, that she always lies. And if she always lies, then he's always telling the truth. He sees himself now as an infallible force of truth, which is what makes his conflict so heartbreaking. Simon is completely broken. He is clearly in the wrong, but genuinely believes the opposite. He attacks Grace, but their fight is interrupted by a cockroach monster. Both retreat under the walkway, Simon nearly succeeding at pulling Grace off, but Grace manages to get a hold of Simon's shoe and uses it to push away the cockroach monster and climb back up before her arms give out. But without his shoe, Simon is unable to stick to the walkway and falls off. But Grace catches him. She pulls him back up and they both lay on the walkway catching their breath, and Simon asks her,
Why did you...
and for the first time in a long time, Grace tells Simon the truth. A lie would have served the situation better. But Grace refuses to fall into that trap again. She's honest with her old friend.
I don't know.
But Grace always lies, and Simon always tells the truth. So he wheels her. Grace saved Simon. She didn't quite know why, but I would argue that it was because she refused to give up on their friendship. But just like that, Simon killed any chance of their relationship recovering. He has cut his one and only friendship. And just like when the cat abandoned him, just like when he was in the cabin, he's alone. And just as those scenes foreshadowed, he once again faces off against the cockroach monster. But unlike those other times, there's nobody there to save him. And he dies. Grace, on the other hand, was rescued by the origami nulls she had fixed up earlier in the episode. Her new worldview, her belief in equality, has saved her, while Simon's refusal to change has left him nothing but ash. And Grace weeps at the loss of her friend. She will never be the same. Those kids will never be the same. Grace admits to them all that the point of the number isn't to grow, but rather to get to zero. She tells them that they are all there for different reasons and that they were all living a lie. So she dissolves the apex. But together, as equals, they resolve to find a new path forward. In just 100 minutes, this show told a dark story about seeing those around you as your equals and treating them as such with honesty. It warns of the dangers of dishonesty, showing us a strong friendship be destroyed because of lies, ending their tale with a large dose of beautifully disturbing irony. Infinity Train Season 3 is truly a masterpiece. It's the greatest story to ever be told by Cartoon Network. It is their magnum opus. And I hope this video did it justice. Just as I hope to see you back here next week when I take a look at the 4th and final season of Infinity Train.